So we're talking about the process of how knowledge takes place, and we want to use this basic understanding with objects. If you see, this cup, two processes happen in your mind. A mental image gets represented in the mind, step one, that's vritti vyapti, and the moment it completes, as if it's slow, frame by frame, the moment it completes, then you go, aha, it is a cup. And that aha, I see a cup, that is called phala vyapti. But it happens so quick that nobody notices these two processes. So it's might as well just one quick process. And we said that if you apply this to a snake, for example, or maybe even better example, you see someone that reminds you of a friend, some friend you think you saw, and you come closer and closer and go, hey, so, and it's kind of embarrassing, right? So what happened is you had this incomplete picture, you walked closer, more details, more data got formed about this person, and now they are, now they are someone different. Now, with a snake, once you get the full vision of the rope, or the belt in our case, do you need that knowledge to continue? Do you kind of need to keep on reminding yourself, oh, this is a rope, this is a belt, this is a belt, this is a belt, this is a belt? Do you do that? No. So once knowledge takes place, then knowledge itself becomes redundant. Not only is ignorance removed, but also the very means which that ignorance was removed, that means also becomes equally redundant. Okay, now, with a worldly object, I've explained, easy. However, what about moksha? What is knowledge when, they say knowledge is taking place, Buddha's sitting under a tree, and suddenly he's like, wow. So that's what it is. I knew about it all along. That's it? Like that. Like, oh, okay. Wow. There was some block that was there that was preventing me from that spontaneous, wow. So there's nothing else than this. There's nothing else than this very awareness that I'm enjoying all the time. Right, so when that moment happens, right, what actually happens during moksha? So just like a object has to get recreated in your mind, okay, accurately, in that same way, your mind needs to accurately recreate reality. So what I mean by this is that awareness is who you are, but my mind has a different image, has a different idea of what awareness is. So this means as long as that idea is dwelling in there, caused by ignorance, then even if awareness is shining through my mind, I won't be able to accurately capture that awareness. It will be something like a way or like some kind of a sensation. So this means when it comes to moksha, then it's still a vritti vyapti, because every Vedantic thought is just a mental representation in your mind. It's still a vritti vyapti, and it accurately represents the nature of reality. This is why we have to keep on listening and listening and listening until the knowledge develops. Because what's happening is inside the mind, reality of awareness is like this. But suppose awareness, reality is like that. So every time we listen, this slowly starts to shape. And eventually, it accurately represents what awareness actually is. And you go, wow, I got it now. So this means when you get to understand who you are, it's only a vritti vyapti, not a phala vyapti. Why do you think it's not a phala vyapti? Phala vyapti means for the first time, it's now created. It's mine. Why do you think phala vyapti is not involved?
Because there is no mind.
Yeah.
It's not an experience.
It's not an experience, yeah. Okay. So, in other words, and you can't say for the first time ever, awareness has been created in my mind. You understand? Because awareness is not created. It was always shining throughout your mind. So you can't say, for the first time, awareness. I already knew about awareness, who I was, except that I didn't quite know what it was.
But it's an experience.
It's not an experience. You just, as far as experience is involved, the notion of wrong attribution is gone. I no longer see myself as the one who doesn't enjoy the reality, as far as experience is involved. Otherwise, experience, as I said yesterday, has no standardization. Because you can say you've experienced your whatever enlightenment one way, someone else can say they've had a satori or meditation. It's not. You just come to go, okay. It's only an experience if it's a palavyapti. Because you go, look at this. No cup. Experience for the first time. So whenever something happens for the first time, ever, it wasn't there a moment ago, then it's an experience. If it's not for the first time, it cannot be an experience. It's simply called discovering, recognizing what I knew about all along. Recognizing what I knew about all along, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I was uncertain if it was really that. There was uncertainty there. Remember the manas, the doubt? Yeah. So now that doubt is gone. And I go, wow, I kind of knew this about all along, but there's something now that's so clear about it. They're like, doubtless. There's no doubt. There's no doubt whatsoever. Okay? So only vritti vyapti. Now, what kind of a vritti vyapti? We call it, clear so far? Somewhat clear? Okay? You're probably asking, why do we need to know this? You'll see. Now, vritti vyapti for moksha has a special name. It's called akhanda akara vritti. And I'll explain why it's called this. Akhanda akara. Remember, this is not academic studies. We're not interested in Sanskrit words. It's just, this is what I learn. This is how I'm teaching. Vritti. Okay. So, akhanda akara basically means a thought without an image. Because this thought, I've created an image in your mind. Now, but is Atma an image to be created in the mind? No. So this means that the thought that gives moksha, that this removes ignorance, it accurately represents reality, but what it actually does is it just removes that final opposing notion to who you are. We've been carrying all of these opposing notions of who we are. I am a small person, I don't have it, it's away from me. All of these are opposing notions. Akhanda akara vritti simply cancels out the opposing notion without leaving an image in the mind. So now is it clear why I'm saying this? Because suppose you say enlightenment is going to be some experience, some amazing light or some kind of a thing, feeling like expansive or free, totally like floating somewhere. All of this is an experience. All of this is for the first time right now. All of this leaves an image in your mind. You only ever experience when there's an image in the mind. So why are we saying this now? Just to point out that moksha is not something that is, some big thing. It's not. It's just an ordinary, okay, like this. This one, right? Where is it? Where's my pen? Where's my pen? Where's my pen? The farther you look, the more you get away from the pen. Even though it's right next to you, the more I look, it's not in the class, maybe it's outside, it's not outside, maybe it's in Udupi, it's not in Udupi, maybe it's in Australia. The more I look, the farther I get away from it. And I go like this. It's on me all the time. And I go like this. Oh, seriously, I kind of knew, I felt it was here all along. But something was just getting me out there. It was more loud than this sensation, than this feeling. So in that sense, go, oh, okay, it's here. Not a big deal. Okay. Clear? No, because we defined palavyapti as, something's created for the first time. That's what palavyapti really means. You don't create awareness. Yeah, okay, yeah, good. That's if you use a different kind of a model. I use that in Kena Upanishad model. This is a different kind of model. This is why I'm explaining it differently now.
But realizing that awareness, is it not a palavyapti? Realizing that awareness,
Yeah.
that it was there and I just came to know that yes, I am that awareness. Why it is not considered as palavyapti? Because that is the first time I am knowing that awareness.
Well, it's as though first time. It's not actually first time. Yeah, but this is actually first time. First time, yeah. Otherwise, even in ignorance, as I said, I know that I'm ignorant. I know that I don't know who I am. So even there, awareness is available for the ignorant person. It's shining on an ignorant mind. I know, in the presence of I, the awareful one, there is knowledge about the fact that I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. That means awareness is still lighting up an ignorant mind. Now I know who I am. Awareness is lighting up a mind which has accurately represented reality as it's meant to be known. Therefore, there's no discrepancy. This is why the search ends. This is why as long as we don't know something completely, we want more information, because your vritti vyapti is not complete. That's what gates the search. Until that happens, I'm going to keep, no, more information, more online reading, more this, more that. It never stops. Therefore, Khandakara vritti removes that final opposing notion that Atma is away from me, and that gets removed. They go, wow, that's what it is, just awareness, just ordinary kind of, not alert, because alertness is the mind, but ordinary presence. That's always true, always available, always true, and never not available to me. And yet the thought 5 minutes from now, is that available? No. Where is the thought? I don't know what that thought is going to be 5 minutes from now, but it's going to come. So there is a presence that's available right now. That mind is not available right now. 5 minutes later, presence is available. Mind is now going to show its new contents, maybe joyfulness. 5 minutes later, I'm available. Okay, mind. Again, illumining this kind of mind, constantly illumining the mind of different sensations and conditions, concerns. Suppose right now you're saying, I'm not getting this. You see this? Where is that happening? I am not getting this. That's mind. What's lighting up that mind? That's called Atma. So just the fact that you said, I'm not getting this, proves the existence of Atma. That's why it's never away from you. And yet, we make that thought stop us from accepting that Atma is right here. Because we say, I need to get rid of this thought. I want to get rid of this thought. And yet, just the fact that there is that thought shows you awareness is right there, shining on it. So it doesn't really matter whether you say, I know or I don't know. Because that belongs to the mind. And that's very much known because of awareness. Okay?
It can be called just a cognitive understanding that now I know.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's a cognitive understanding. Yeah, but I want to. That's a good point, Vishal, because with that cognitive understanding also comes a genuine, a genuine freedom, which develops slowly. So you can't just say it's a intellectual thing. It's also an emotional freedom. In fact, if the emotion doesn't follow, then the person has more to work on. because they still have their old stuff kind of doubting them. Maybe it's like this, and all the conditioning still says I'm not a good person, and I've got these issues and I'm a nobody. All of this still keeps coming. So you have to keep on working to pull these weeds out of the mind. This is why moksha is not a big thing, because the mind is still there. And it's difficult to work with that mind sometimes. So you have to still continue weeding out inquiry, thinking, and so on. Yeah.
So the solution is to continuously listen about it.
Continuously, yeah. Continuously continue to be in the world, and because the world gives us opportunities to clear up our stuff. So it's not like, oh, I've understood, now I can relax and just do nothing. You're still carrying a mind. So there's no sense of this, who cares, it's just the mind, I'm beyond the mind. It doesn't happen like that. You genuinely work with your mind, still serve contributor, because that's a mark of maturity. No more this me, my time, my success, my wealth, my productivity, my knowledge. No, there's a genuine outpouring, because you're coming from fullness now, no longer from emptiness, from the sense of inadequacy, smallness, me. That reduces, goes away. So we're talking about an emotional and a cognitive shift, not just one. That's the whole idea. Otherwise, if we just understand this at the head level, your life is still kind of like unhappy, more or less. So both of them are true. Now, the verse continues and says, just like the soap nut powder, see, very interesting, right? You have clear, dirty water, and how do you clean that dirty water? You put here soap nut powder. Now, soap nut powder collects all of those dirts together, and then it falls to the bottom. So this means that once knowledge takes place, like 2 + 2 = 4, do I have to keep on repeating that? Once the understanding takes place, not only is ignorance gone, but also the very understanding is no longer needed. The very knowledge, the very means is no longer needed. 2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 = 4. It's not needed. Once I understand, let it go. So like this, it says, just like the soap nut powder drops to the bottom, taking all of the contaminations with it, it settles at the bottom. In that same way, knowledge, along with ignorance, settles at the bottom. So all of these prakriyas, drikdrishya viveka, other prakriyas that are coming up, all of that is no longer required. It done its job. I don't need to keep repeating, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. Once the understanding is there, the person can be whatever state of mind, it doesn't matter, because I am there. In every state of mind, who is there? I am there. But is one state of mind there in another state of mind? No. A sad state of mind is not in a joyful state of mind. But who is in the state of mind of the sad one, and who is in the state of mind in the joyful one? I am there. So there's only one principle that continues through and through all states of mind. That is Atma. And that is the final reality. Atma happens to be from which this entire universe comes. It's quite amazing. Your awareness is the very substance from which everything comes, from which the teacher and the student comes. All right. So just an example, if you take, right, suppose you have 1,000 different pots. This is from my house. I've had this for a couple of years. Thank God it's not broken in my travels. And right, they would just position, figurines, maybe people made out of clay, and table and furniture, and a sun made out of clay, and a tree made out of clay. And now they're all just clay. Okay? Now, once I understand they're all clay, do I have to keep on analyzing? Oh, let me just make sure it's clay. Okay. Clay. Okay. Next one. Clay. Okay. No. Once you understand the substance that makes up all things, at once, I don't need to keep on reanalyzing reality over and over and over again, because it makes up everything. It makes up me, it makes up you, it makes up everything. There's nothing that is not it. Once the knowledge is there, thank you, you have done your job. I can now live my life and do my contributions in the world. So, next verse will be another prakriya, a major prakriya. Let's see. Samsaraha swapnatulyaha hi ragadveshadhi sankulaha swakale satyavat bhati prabodhe satya sat bhavet. The verse says that, see, forms are fine. Forms we enjoy. We use forms for our benefit, and when are you not participating with forms? Forms is all we have. In fact, we look into reality through forms. We got to awareness. The rishis got to awareness through forms. The rishis got to Ishvara through forms. This is all you have, forms. Now, if you look at these forms as the final thing, and we don't analyze the nature of the forms, that is what we call samsara. That means now forms become the final substance, the final thing to participate in and work with, and to, it becomes such a big deal, forms. But forms don't have a final reality. If we analyze forms, they're empty. This is just pure science. We don't need Vedanta for this. So, what do I mean by empty? Well, Vedanta, in Buddhism, we use shunyata, but in Vedanta, we use mithya. So, mithya is a certain word that shows you the status of an object. So now I want to describe to us a methodology to be able to look at forms and to come to the final reality through forms, because that's all we have, forms. And firstly, I want to say that there are two words that we need to know. Important words in Vedanta. Okay, so these two words are satya and mithya. Okay. Now these two words describe what's called in English ontological status of reality. Now the word ontology is the closest word in English that we have for this. Ontology studies the nature of an object. So I'm going to say ontological words. Ontological words. And just a definition for that is nature of an object. Okay, like that, nature of an object. So ontological words study what is the nature of the wall, of the air, of anything of experience, of the mind. So now let's look into that. The word satyam, I'll start with, means independent. So independently existent. Independently existent or irreducible. Okay? Irreducible or independently existent. So this means that you cannot reduce it any further. It also means that it is independent of itself. It doesn't depend on anything for it to exist. It is self-existent. Self-existent. So what do I mean by that? Look at this beautiful flower by our dear friends here. Okay, this lovely flower. I mean, how many things is this made of? Right? Just flower, right? You got petals, you've got, see, we call this flower, and we call this, can we call this satyam, assuming it's independently existent? No, because this flower is made up of many parts. Petals and the bud and the fragrance, all of that put together makes up this flower. Okay? So you can't call this flower really satyam because it's made up of many parts. But now look at this. In the West, we have two basic words to describe anything. We have satyam. No, it's real. No, are you being for real? Yeah, I'm being for real, you know. Yeah, it's the real game. No, it's real clothes. And we have the word tucham, which means illusion, totally non-existent. Tucham. It just means illusion or non-existent. Okay, tucham. What do I mean by this? Sky flowers. Does that exist empirically, sky flowers? What about cold fire? Does that exist? Only in your imagination, not empirically. Of course, in our imagination we can put anything together. So now, if you have these two words, it is either real or it's an illusion. Suppose. Let's see, let's do a little analysis using a shirt. So this shirt, suppose I call satyam, okay, because it's independently exists. It's the final thing, suppose. Satyam. Nice shirt, right? It's made up of cotton and material and it does the job very well. It's functional. Excellent. I bought it and I'm wearing it. Now, in fact, I fought over for it. It was a Black Friday. I stormed in the shop. We punched each other. We were pulling the shirt apart. That was the last copy. I ran away because I gave so much value to the shirt. We do the same thing with TVs and everything. And I got it. I was so happy. But now I come home and a philosopher says, hey, let's just look into this shirt. What did you really buy? Let me see how much effort you really put into this shirt. And what did you put your effort into? So he takes a little strand and starts to pull out the strand. Pull, 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 pull. And the shirt. And now he's holding a ball of yarn. Is this what you bought, Andre? No, I bought a shirt. Okay? But now you have a ball of yarn. Would you fight over this in the store? Not at all. I would not even give it a second look. Dismiss. I fought for the shirt. But Andre, this is the shirt. This is what makes up the shirt. I don't care. I want the shirt. So now you have a new thing here with a different name attached onto it. And you call it yarn. Now yarn becomes satyam. Okay? It's the final thing, suppose. But now, what about the shirt? What do you call the shirt now? Can you, because the shirt is no more here, remember? Can you call the shirt satyam now? No, because where's the shirt? The shirt is, I'm holding a yarn. Can you call the shirt tucham, an illusion? Why not?
It is not non-existent.
Because while it existed, it was functional, and I wore it, and it was warm, and it was lovely. I was getting attention. So it was fine. So now how am I going to explain the shirt's existence if I only have two words? It's either real or it's fake. I can't. I have to add one more word. And this is the beauty of the Vedas, where it reconciles all of the non-reconcilable teachings that are attempting to explain. It says the shirt is another word which is mithya. And mithya means it is entirely, completely dependent on something else. Dependent on something else for it to exist. Is that not true? Does this shirt depend on the yarn? Yeah. So this is not a belief. I'm just analyzing reality right now. So now you have the word mithya. So this means the shirt's existence entirely depends on or is contingent on something else for its existence. So the shirt is now what? Is it satyam, tucham, or mithya? It is mithya. Why is it mithya? Yeah, because it has no independent existence. How do I prove that? It's made up of parts. It depends on something else. So now, the word mithya, to be clear, does mithya mean illusion? Tucham means illusion. So can I call the shirt an illusion? I mean, you can apply this analysis to anything in this world, because everything is made up of things dependent upon something else. So can I call anything in this world that's empirically here, like a shirt, an illusion? No. I have to call it mithya, because it has no reality without those parts that it's made of. Okay. So mithya is neither absolutely real, nor is it unreal. It is mithya. It is dependently real. Okay. So far, what does this tell you about, what do these three words tell you about anything? What do these three words tell us? Except just, listing mithya, tucham, satyam. How do you connect to these three words? What do they tell you about reality so far? World is mithya. What about daily experience? How do you connect this to daily experience? To daily living?
Things are never what they look like.
They are never what they seem. What about daily, challenges and at home and going at the airport and you see, all of these people and so much. You see an aeroplane made up of parts, for example. Systems in a society made up of many parts that we live in. Your body, what's your body? Made up of parts. Mithya. How many parts is your body made of? Wow, so many. Even your lungs and your spleen and stomach, long intestine, short intestine, all of them put together to form our body, which we are now calling one name called body. Skin. Beauty, they say, is skin deep. Take the skin away. Would you ever date anyone? Just one layer, 1 millimeter, makes it beautiful. That's how important mithya is for functional reasons. Therefore, no question of saying, oh, you're an illusion. Try getting lucky like that. Okay. Now, let me apply this example to a pot. Okay, it's a common example in Vedanta. And for those of us who have heard this before, let your mind, listen again. So this pot is a lovely functional thing. I can pick up water. I can, offer you the pot like this. I can give you a present. It's got weight to it. It has, a size, a shape to it. And this pot, right, is a very special example because if I, for example, take this cup and I put an adjective onto the cup, like big cup, small cup. Suppose I take the adjective out. Do I still have the cup? Yeah. So in this case, the big or small, it doesn't affect the reality of the cup at all. But what if you take an example of a pot and clay? and I say this is a clay pot, and I take the clay out, could I have the pot then? No. It's a very unique example. So this means with this clay pot, the entirety of it is pervaded by the clay. And the pot ends up being the functional component. The pot is what's called mithya, because it has function and it depends upon the clay. Now the question is, suppose I ask you, what is more real? Is the pot more real or is the clay more real? The clay is more real. See that question, more real? How it doesn't discard entirely the pot? It just wants to acknowledge, hey, the pot is fine, but I just want to analyze what is more real here. So it forces you to look through into this object. If I just say, no, who cares about the pot? Then I'm discarding reality. Can I discard this? Not at all, because if I discard the pot, then I'm discarding the clay simultaneously. So I have to ask a question, what is more real? And I, through analysis, I say, well, if the pot is more real, suppose you say the pot is more real, okay, let's take out the clay. Where's the pot now? Suppose I say the clay is more real, I take out the pot. Is the clay still there? Yeah. Why is the clay still there? Because the clay makes up the entirety of this form. So this means that there is no place throughout this object that I can't find the substance. Wherever I look, up, down, sideways, left, right, it's entirely pervaded by the substance. I break the pot, the substance still remains. Now suppose this was a little bit more flexible. I mold it into something else, like a tree. Like suppose it's wet clay. A moment ago, I valued pots. Stay away, this is my pot. And now I've molded it into a tree. I don't want the tree. I don't need that. It lost its value. How come it lost its value when it's the same object? It's the same substance. A moment ago, it was, like gold in a jewelry, right? You buy someone a necklace, and it's precious. Oh, I bought you a ring or a necklace. Oh, thank you so much. Such a nice gift. And then you say tomorrow, and then suppose you change scenarios. You bring a big block of gold on the table. What's this? It's gold. Why do I need this? Well, it's precious. I don't need this. Take it away. I want a necklace. It's the same substance. The value is different. So where is all of our focus in terms of value in this world? Mithya. Where is all of our discussions in this world? Mithya. Where is all of my concerns? Mithya. Where is all of my time going into? Mithya. Effort. Mithya. Totally missing out on the substance that is through and through all things. Therefore, mithya becomes the essence of my life. Unable to reconcile the reality. And thereby every mithya experience, samadhi becomes the thing. Kundalini raising becomes the thing. Chakra, aura healing becomes the thing. Satya, satya, satya. They're all mithya. Because they all depend and they are made up of many parts. Why do we chant Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam Eva, Avashishyate? This prayer, very popular, isn't it? This entire prayer is a Satya Mithya prayer. And before I get there, what kind of a relationship does this pot have? What is the relationship in this object? What do you call this relationship between the pot and the clay? It's a Satya Mithya relationship. Wherever there is mithya, that's where satyam is. There is no place where I can not find the content, satyam. I can look, whether it's here or here or here, I'm always going to find the exact same substance. Now, when we say Purnamadav, Purnamidam, we say that is the whole, Purnamidam, this is the whole. Now, what is the word adaha and idam? What is that and this? That refers to Atma, refers to Satyam, the final substance that makes up everything. So, Atma is the whole. It's the only thing there is. This, in other words, the clay is the whole thing, the only thing there is. The name and form, this world, is all there is. In other words, it's nothing but the final substance. If I take away the pot away from the substance, have I really taken away anything from anything? Not at all. If I take away the name and form from the substance, I only have substance that was there all along. So no matter what I take out or I put back, I'm never adding onto the clay. If I add this onto this, have I added onto the clay? No. Clay remains clay no matter what. If I take this out of this, have I reduced clay? No. I've only reduced name and form. Suppose it's a person. I take the head away, right? I've only reduced, I can't call it a person anymore. Now, going back to the verse, and then we will conclude like that. It says, the world is like a dream. The world is like a dream. Then it says, when we awake from this dream, when we awake, what happens? The unreality, what is unreality referring to? The world, which is mithya. The unreality, mithya is seen that it was indeed mithya. It's no longer satyam. So look at this. I'll just do an example to make it more relatable. Did you dream last night? Yeah? Do you remember your dreams? You do? Yes? No? Sometimes? Yeah. Did you ever experience a time where you were visually, right? You were in the dream and it was significantly impactful, right? It was, there were characters there, and there were mountains, and there were experiences, and there were familiar faces there, and all of the familiar things were there, and it was a storyline. There was a whole story attached to your dream. There was a theme of your dream. You had that? Okay. So many things were in that dream, and all of those things, upon waking, what happened? They all got resolved into the mind. Because what's creating your dream? Your mind is. Your mind is imagination, creating the dream. So all of those things in the dream were mithya, depending upon one single mind, which was satyam. Now we've done Drigdarsha Viveka, and we discovered that also the mind depends upon you, the awareful presence. The 5 minutes mind from now will depend upon you, the awareful presence. So the whole thing was mithya. Now it says the world is like a dream. This world that you're experiencing right now is mithya. And then it continues and it says, one more point, is that what's the difference between the dream example and the pot and clay example? The dream example and the pot and clay example. Would someone like to try this? They're both mithya because the dream depends upon the mind. Here the pot depends upon the clay. So they're both mithya. But can you see any example, any difference in the dream and here?
More subtle.
Okay, it's close.
Once you wake up, you come to know that is Vidya. So once you know this is clay,
yeah.
then potness will go.
Okay, anything else? Close.
The dream is connected to the person.
One's connected to the person a little bit closer. Yeah, so it's more subjective. So it's subjective mithya. And this example is objective. Do you know what I mean by subjective objective? Subjective means it is my stuff. It's not your stuff. It's not collectively shared. Now, this subjective is a new word, which is important for now, which is pratibhasika. Pratibhasika. Okay? Pratibhasika means subjective. And the empirical is vyavaharika. These are very important words in Vedanta. Vyavaharika. Which means empirical. Empirical. Okay. So pratibhasika is basically, I see it, therefore it is. You understand? I see it, therefore it is. Vyavaharika is, it is, therefore I see it. This is, it is, therefore I see it. If I ask you to close your eyes and imagine something, that's going to be, I see it, therefore it is. Okay? So these are the two differences. So, and you can also now, so what is a dream? Pratibhasika mithya, subjective mithya, and this example is objective mithya. Okay? So we're going to say pratibhasika mithya, vyavaharika. Now, pratibhasika also means subjectivity, right? So this means that I can have 5 students looking at me, and every one of you are going to have a different idea about me. You're going to say, end of the course, here's what I think about Andre. Is that vyavaharika or pratibhasika? Pratibhasika. That means your stuff belongs to you. It's not collectively shared. In that sense, it's pratibhasika. But why is it mithya? Why is your opinion mithya?
Because it is dependent on each different opinions.
And it's also dependent upon your cultural values, your beliefs, your time that you spent with me, where you sat in the class, whether the cooling was on or off, so many things. So what are our opinions about the world? Most of them. Most of them are pratibhasika. Bubbles. So this means we have to look at those bubbles because they cover vyavaharika. Because Andre is one thing, but you see something else. And you say, no, I'm not going to listen, or I will listen, and so on. So we put the person on a pedestal, or we put him underneath. Superiority complex, inferiority complex. What is that? Pratibhasika. You can see how this transfers into a psychological thing. Now, knowing this, what the verse wants to say is that, what do we say after we wake up from a dream? Suppose it's a terrible dream. What do we say?
Happy I woke up.
Thank God. Yeah. I get dreams like myself like that. Like, wow, man, like, why did I have a dream of killing someone? So weird. I was embarrassed. And I woke up and I said, I'm so glad that is not real. Genuinely experienced relief that I am back in the real world. What the verse says now is that once you come out of the dream, you think this is the real world. Even this is like a dream. And therefore, that other reality is called paramartika. Paramarthi. Paramartika. Okay, so paramartika. Parama just means highest. So the highest reality. Brahman, basically. Awareness. Okay, I'm going to say here Atma. Atma or awareness. Awareness. Okay. Now, let's see in the next time we meet how to even break through this dream. and get to the final reality. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.